Hey everyone, this is Marty from Total Outdoor Programming. Today we're going to bring you a different type of video. I've done a lot of self-filming over the years. Just like to record some of my hunts so I can watch them back and kind of relive the moment. We're going to bring some videos back. These are filmed on a Handycam, a Sony Handycam, so it's not real high quality, but it's fun to watch. This particular one we're going to start off with is one that a lot of people that know me have asked to see this hunt. I'm not really quite sure that I want to show this hunt, but at their request, I'm going to go ahead and do it. So anyways, this is my 2012 whitetail hunt, and it was a fun season to start off with. I'd seen quite a few deer, smaller bucks, a few that were marginal shooters, just weren't getting close enough during bow season, and kept being persistent, kept working at it. We got into firearms season here in Indiana, which happens in the mid part of November. And one of the times I was on my way out to my blind, I actually got stuck in the middle of the field. I was sneaking out to my box in the afternoon, and I got about 30 yards away from it, and all of a sudden here comes a doe with a buck chasing her out through the field. All I could do was sit down as quick as I could, hug the fence line, and just wait. I thought, it'll only be a minute or two and they'll move their way through and I'll be able to get back into my box blind. But I was wrong. They ended up spending the rest of the evening sitting out there. The doe ended up bedding down, and the buck bedded down about 50 yards away from her, and they would get up a few times, sit back down, get up a few times, sit back down, which is pretty common rut behavior. I ended up spending the rest of the night sitting right there staring at my box blind 30 yards away, freezing, wishing I could be in it, but there was nothing I could do because the deer were right there in the field with me. So at one point they were probably 75 to 100 yards away from me and paid absolutely no attention to me. So as the season progressed, I kept getting a few neat opportunities. I always enjoyed, even if I'm not getting a shot, it's cool to be out there. So one afternoon I was easing into my ladder stand and I was just about to it, and all of a sudden I looked and I watched a doe cross the ditch in front of me, probably 100 yards away. And right after came a nice buck. I managed to make it to the bottom of my stand and slip up into my stand. The whole time they had bedded down right there on the other side of the ditch, and I could see them, but I could not get a shot. So I thought, that's all right. I'm sitting great here. I've got these deer right there. All I've got to do is wait for it to get closer to dark. The doe's going to come out into the field. He's going to follow her. I'm good to go. A few times I actually had a smaller buck come in, and the bigger buck would jump up and run him off and come right back down to that same spot and bed down again. Getting closer to dark, all of a sudden I noticed that the does were starting to file their way out past me, and all of a sudden here comes that smaller buck that he had jumped up and chased off again. Walking out of the field, gonna come over and check out the does out in the field. I knew this was gonna be the trigger. This was the moment I was waiting for. I knew that big buck was gonna come out of the woods, walk over to that smaller buck, chase him off, and then I'd be ready to go. The big buck came in, walked straight over to that buck. They actually sparred for a few minutes. I'm waiting patiently. I've got a perfect rest on the railing, looking right through the scope. Just waiting for him to separate. Finally, here comes the moment. The big buck separates from the smaller one. I take my time. Good shot. This thing, as soon as I squeezed the trigger, I knew he was done for. He turned and ran, probably went about 40, 50 yards through the ditch, and hit the ground, and he was done for. So I was extremely excited. I remember thinking, you know, that's funny. He just didn't look as big as I had seen him when he was out there bedded down, but hey, you know, he was still a really good buck. I knew it. I'd seen him over and over and over that afternoon. Everybody else thinks this is the best part. This is the worst part in my mind. I'm sitting there looking at that buck on the ground, celebrating, wondering why he looked a little bit bigger earlier, but still happy that I got him. And then all of a sudden I see coming in the background the buck that I'd been watching the whole time. Now, we have hunters in all the time at camp that make a mistake, and I always think when they tell me that, how in the world can you make a mistake? You know, all you have to do is just concentrate and make sure you're on the right buck and you're fine. Well, now I can honestly say that I know exactly what they mean. Apparently there was a third buck, so I ended up shooting the middle buck thinking it was the biggest buck. But, you know, the story doesn't end there. Not only did I make a mistake, but now I get to watch this big buck I'm walking in check out my buck, and not only does he check out the buck, but he proceeds to take his rack and toss my buck around. That's the hunter's favorite parts, all my friends, it's their favorite part of the story. But anyways, it's kind of cool. I get back to camp, I explain the story to everybody, and I dig out the old Sony Handycam, pull up the video, and I start watching it over and over, watching the shot, wondering how I could have made that mistake. And I noticed something after watching it a few times. If you go back to the moment right before I shoot, I'm focused, staring through the scope, you'll notice in the background the big buck is actually walking about 50 yards away, walking towards me, and I've got such tunnel vision on focusing on my shot that I did not see him coming. So if I had just opened my eyes, I probably would have noticed that he was on his way and I would have got a great shot on that buck. So anyways, that's how the story went. It was a really cool hunt. It's a fun one. I'm glad I've got it on tape. It's really something that is, you know, kind of an odd situation to ever catch on tape, having a huge buck come in and toss your little buck around on the ground. So it makes for a fun story, a lot more fun for everybody else to listen to than it is for me to retell it. But hey, that big buck's still out there, so maybe I'll get him next year. Hope you guys like that story. Hope you like this new little series we're doing here on some flashback videos, and I hope you don't mind the old Sony Handycam, but hey, that's what I'm using at that point, so we're just going to bring that to you for right now for fun. Alright, hopefully you like this, and if so, subscribe and we'll keep bringing more videos.